The following podcast is brought to you by Pro Wrestling Connect, Australia's newest choice for event management and brand development specialising in pro wrestling.
And now, the B Plus Wrestling Podcast. Watch global. Support local. It's the B Plus Wrestling Podcast.
The news.
B plus.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen out there in the B plus land. It is me, it is I, the one they call Mr Myster1ous, and welcome to All The Wrest, the wrestling podcast that covers all the wrestling news in this wacky, weird world, marvelous world, wondrous world, full of glorious things that we call professional wrestling. It's been an interesting week. It's I think the first week I've had over here where there's no wrestling on the weekend. My weekend has been clear. I've been able to focus on my other binges. I've been able to finish off Glow Season 3. Make sure to check out the podcast in the next couple of weeks to see our recap of that, what we thought about it. I've been catching up on Survivor as well. We're always going to be catching up on the adventures of Harry the Ice Cream Guy and, of course, Maddie Wahlberg of The Game Changers. And, of course, hashtag Yeah the Babes. And, yeah, I've been catching up on my Lucha Underground as well. I'm up to I think I'm halfway through Season 1 at the moment where they unveiled the championship, the original championship. I forgot how tacky the original design was until they got the glorious design of their World Championship and then the puff. The gift of the gods, I should say. It's all over the place, but I'm here. I'm here to talk about everything in the world of professional wrestling that's happened this week. There's been a lot of good stuff, a lot of questionable decisions, mainly on WWE's part. A lot of questionable decisions, some very bad ideas, and stuff that we don't know until it happens. So without further ado, I'll break that down for you guys. So, as always, where I start, Major League Wrestling, episode 70. It's weird to think that we're at like 70. It feels like a lot more episodes have come out of Major League Wrestling, but they've just ingrained themselves in the wrestling culture so quickly. I absolutely love them. But we'll start, of course, episode 70, main evented by Alexander Hammerstone of the Dynasty facing off against the Caribbean champion, Savio Vega. This one, there are a lot of good points in this. I'll go through the start. So we opened up with Bestia 666 face off against Rey Horus, which, fun fact, both Bestia and Horus are members of a faction in the Crash called the Rebellion Amarilla, which I'll tell you the importance of in just a little bit. But Bestia is considered to be their leader, while Horus is a newer member, of course, as heavyweight champ of the Crash, and they've got guys like Mecha Wolf 450, Hijo del Fantasma, or King Cuerno to some people in Lucha Underground. I'm climatizing. It's weird watching Lucha back after all these years. But in terms of this match, a bit slower than your standard Lucha Libre contest. Like, no joke, Big Boy Mikey of B Plus Team actually asked me what I thought about Bestia 666. And I'm not quite sold on him yet. His talents lie in being a great hardcore wrestler. He does have a good lucha moveset, but he does wrestle a lot slower than I thought he would. And I don't know if that is like his usual style, or if it's meant to be like a psychological thing. I still haven't quite placed him just yet. He's a great asset to Promociones Dorado. He hasn't quite filled the void of Low Ki in my mind. I'm sure that confrontation is going to happen at some point. But in terms of his look, in terms of his being linked to Selena, I think it's fantastic. I do want them to invest more in the supernatural element because they make the point that Selena summoned him from the depths of hell. They try and make it seem like she created Bestia out of a blood ritual, even though he's from Mexico. But they're trying to really invest in that And if you want to really go that route, make him more darker, make him more vicious. And like I said, I think his strengths lie in being a great hardcore wrestler. But for now, this match didn't quite sell me on him as well. There were some highlights, like a suicide dive from Bestia, tope con giro by Horus on the corner ropes, standing Spanish fly, that was beautiful. But for the finish, Horus climbed the turnbuckles, but Bestia put his weight against the ropes to cause Horus to lose balance. Bestia picked Horus off the turnbuckles for a muscle buster neck breaker. Absolutely glorious to pick up the win. Afterwards, Selena came out, entered the ring, cut a bit of a promo, declared herself the greatest promoter in the history of pro wrestling, which I could argue today, yes, of all time, not quite there yet. But she's saying of all time so that she can insult people like Conan, who still has her phone, saying, "You're a gangster, right? I would like to think you'll be more of a man and less of a bitch," which... Yeah, I'm not going to defend Conan in the slightest. But hit Conan's music, which LAX's music, but they've cleaned out the mentions of homicide and the LAX mentions as well. But Conan came out, revealed some damaging information he learned from her phone, so he has openly admitted to be snooping around in her phone and everything else. I've made my thoughts quite clear that I really do not like this direction that they're going with this, but it seemed to be more on the blackmail side in terms of her business tactics right now. So I think that's a slight improvement. Slight. But I don't like this at all. But yeah, Conan's been busting her scheme of pocketing the title fight bonus that would have went to Vega. So Vega is the main event, as I mentioned. And she was planning to actually sign Savio Vega. But Conan implied that someone actually told Vega. Who could have done that, I wonder? And then Vega came out with a contract which was meant to be from Promociones Dorado in his hand and then ripped it into little pieces because he found out the truth. Selena stood in the ring, screamed as Conan did, a little shoulder shimmy, just like he shrugged it off. He shook it off. He's following a little bit of Tay-Tay in his life. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. So this was not part of the... So as we're aware, so he's got 3 wishes that he wants Selena to do before he gives her back her phone, right? So, of course, she could just report him to the police. But no, that would be too easy. This is wrestling after all. So the first thing, of course, was the death match between LA Park and Jimmy Havoc, which is going to be happening next week's episode, which I am very much looking forward to. I think they're going to absolutely murder each other, and probably to the extent that it would be a great send-off for Jimmy Havoc so that he can continue with AEW. If his last match was at LA Park, man, it's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be great. In terms of the other 2 things, I hope that they're tame and nothing untoward. Conan, that's all I can say. Next, we have a little segment. So the tag team champions and the dynasty in general, so they've got their own little segment. Their latest episode of the lifestyles of the rich and dynastic. So Richard Holiday, still in his smooth pink jacket, drinking a martini, enjoying the amazing city view of his penthouse that his father purchased with the money from closing down an orphanage. He keeps pushing that point, right? To make the dynasty seem like they are just these careless people. He keeps driving the point home that, yeah, I ruined an orphanage. Like, get new material, Holiday. Please get new material. Like, yes, you've used that line a few too many times for me. All of a sudden, MJF is going chugga 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 whoop whoop. It is the gift train. So MJF has given his fellow Dynasty brethren, Hammerstone and Holiday, gifts. He gave them each a gold Rolex watch, which, if from a couple weeks ago, I think, it wasn't a Lifestyles episode, but Hammerstone actually said he's never owned a watch before. And he got a little bit emotional, man. Like, it's okay for men to express their feelings. And, yeah, he got a little bit teary-eyed, and he hugged MJF and Holiday, and MJF, of course, was freaking out by the display of affection, and he's just like, I hear Aria Blake calling me from my bedroom. So, yeah, he just went straight to the sex again. That was the implication there. Yeah, they continue to make jokes by saying Teddy Hart is moping around a crack house or under a bridge. They're just being so snobbish, right? That again, so MJF is stating in like a real snobbish way that, oh, it's so funny that Teddy Hart is a terrible drug addict, right? And like, I have the same problems from I have of last week. I don't understand the point of this. You know, I mean, if that was the real reason, because again, so the next segment we had was a H2TV episode, which I'm glad we still have them. I was thinking that only the tag champions would get those episodes, but in terms of that actual, like the whole segment itself. So if you're wondering what the H2TV episode was about, kissing butt and brown nosing. So they're in a hotel room with Teddy's cats. Pillman's just talking about how he was born to wrestle while MJF was born to kiss ass. It cuts to Teddy Hart's cats brown nosing, so Mr. Velvet is nose deep in Sir Caspian's butt. They're just getting to know each other a little bit more, I suppose. Like that's cats for you. They're wondrous beats. I own two myself. But H2TV transitioned to Smith and Hart helping Pillman practice moonsaults on a hotel bed. But it meant nothing. It was a segment that did absolutely nothing to further this along. Like I was thinking maybe that Teddy Hart would respond to MJF calling him a drug addict again, you know, like, but it's nothing. So they're just throwing these insults out there that don't really mean anything at all. And I think now they're actually trying to. So there's like a arbitration hearing, right? So the Dynasty and the Hart Foundation are set for an arbitration hearing about the tag team title rematch. So I'm glad that they're actually trying to make a story out of this now, because it seemed like such a throwaway line to actually like bring this all together. I don't know. It just seems so weird, right? I'm hoping that it turns out well, but MLW they can salvage this still. Like they haven't lost all hope in my mind. But yeah, it's just I have no idea how they're going to rectify like just casually calling Teddy a drug addict. And if that were true, then given their sports-centric nature, they'd be trying to fine him, they'd be trying to suspend him, they'd be trying to put him under house arrest, something to make it seem like, oh, this is legit, you know. But yeah, I digress. Fourth member of Contra Unit has been announced. So last week, of course, the fourth member of Contra Unit, Tristan Tai, as he's known in other promotions, he misted one of the Von Erichs, and his name in MLW is Ikaro Kwan. So we had a very little seedy Contra Unit promo saying they went to the heart of Asia looking for their newest member, right? A pit fighter who has fought in the slums of Singapore, a man who has fought in the tar pits of India, a man so sadistic he has burnt men with coals, a man who would become the feared underboss of some place I didn't really hear. But all the way from Asia, Ikaro Kwan. And he's got a pretty cool mask as well as part of his graphic, which he does add a nice little mystique there to Contra. With his fourth member, I don't know. Because as I mentioned, I don't like Simon Gotch in Contra. You can clearly tell that they are trying to hide him as like this weak link. But you do have Gotcha and Samael actually have a match later on in the episode against Ariel Dominguez and Jay Sky. Who is Jay Sky? A jobber. Ariel Dominguez is the best known jobber in MLW as of late. And yeah, Gotch and Samael just absolutely obliterate them. Dominguez submitted to a camel clutch by Samael. Samael took out the railroad spike and jammed it into Dominguez's mouth. Gotch had an insult injury with a pile driver to Dominguez. It was big squash match to make it seem like, yeah. Surprisingly, though, Ikaro Kwan wasn't a part of that little beatdown. I thought that would be the nice little welcome to the family, brother kind of thing. It didn't end up happening. We get a little bit of an update from Marshall Von Erich, of course, as you mentioned, got blinded. Casey Lennox interviewed Ross and Tom Lawler. Ross informed them that his brother is seeing an eye specialist after the attack. Ross seems shaken up. Then Lawler blurted out, "Contra!" He's trying to seem emotional and torn and angry, but it's just Casey Lennox is talking, and then Lawler just went out, "Contra! This is war!" Right? He's got the crazy eye look down. But yeah, they are preparing for war games, or the war chamber. I forget what it's called now, but it's the war games essentially. They still haven't revealed their fourth member there yet, but I'm convinced it's Loki, just given the scale of MLW as of late. And then mentioning as well with the fact the success of Hobbs and Shaw being the number one grossing movie in the world right now, how he was actually had a little cameo role in there as well. So they're making sure they drive that point home to make it seem like their success is MLW's success. So that's nice. Like WWE don't get a chance to, they can't have a chance to do that because there's no real point to connect it aside from Roman Reigns, I suppose. But it's good that they're not actually like picking fights at each other. Another promo we have, there's a lot of very promo heavy, but it actually all kind of balanced itself out this week. You had Old Mansa back with the whiteboard. I love the whiteboard with Old Mansa promos. Casey Lace is interviewing about his game plan to take on Promociones Dorado. I thought we were done with this. Clearly not. But yeah, Warner brought out the whiteboard, asked Lennox to draw some trees. Warner then carried in a chainsaw, and he's ready to cut Selina's boys down. Now he's going to pull them out by the roots. He's got a chainsaw, ladies and gentlemen. He's got a freaking chainsaw. God knows what he's going to do with that. In Promociones, I mean, you have to imagine that, again, another hardcore match, maybe against LA Park, maybe against Bestia again. I don't know. It's hard to imagine. So Promociones is coming under fire from Old Mansa, from Conan. Loki's lurking somewhere. So they're slowly losing their power, is what's going on. And eventually it's going to all come crumbling down. When will that happen? We'll find out soon enough. But in terms of the main event, National O-Point Championship, Alexander Hammerstone in his third defense, facing off against the Caribbean champion Savio Vega. I did not like this match at all. I'm sorry. So, like, Savio Vega, veteran wrestler, like known from like early days like WWE, like even the 90s as well, like very renowned wrestler. Very slow match, and I wouldn't have minded if the other matches as well weren't that slow. So, like, you had the squash match with Samael and Gotch. You had the Horus and Bestia match, which was a slow match as well. I wasn't in the mood for this slow kind of contest, and it showed that Vega kind of got gassed pretty quickly against a guy like Hammerstone. Right? Vega, I think he hurt himself running to the corner at one stage, and Hammerstone hit a power slam and a pump-up kick to him. Right? Vega was back with one of these patented backward kicks. Holiday popped up into the atrium, so the Dynasty came out there with him. Interestingly enough, though, the the announcer, whose name escapes me, the ring announcer, he only announced Holiday to accompany Hammerstone, even though MJF came out too. So he didn't say the Dynasty, he just said accompanied by Richard Holiday. So I don't know if he's just ostracizing MJF, because, like, why? He's the salt of the earth, guys. Come on. He's MJF. Like, who doesn't love MJF? Except for everyone. But yeah, very bizarre whole thing. So they hid Vega's like Vega's ring rust and inconsistencies in the ring. They were distracting the referee. MJF removed the turnbuckle padding on like the middle corner turnbuckle. Hammerstone shoved Vega into that exposed steel. The referee realized this and just like, oh, never mind. And then the finish, right? So Hammerstone's Nightmare Pendulum. Now, I don't know if this was a botch or the fact that Hammerstone is not used to doing his finisher on a guy who's more closer to his side, or to his size rather. But he did it, and Sabio Vega's legs kind of gave way at the same. They touched first, not his back, and it looked like he broke his leg. Right? It looked like it kind of swept under him, and commentary made it seem like it was part of the plan, which good on them. But it looked so ugly. It looked so like putting a dog out of its misery like Old Yeller. It was bad, and it just left a real sour taste in my mouth afterwards. So Hammerstone gratefully looks good after another successful defense. Afterwards, Brian Pillman ran to the ring and stole Hammerstone's jacket. So that is still going on. So fair enough, the Dynasty stole one of the tag titles before they won it. So why not? They steal Hammerstone's jacket, which is his patented thing. I'll allow it. It's just like a weird bit of randomness. And that was episode 70. I mean, I love the promos, but the wrestling that we had, there wasn't enough for it. Like, there was some quality match like elements in the Bestia Horus match, but I did not like the Vega match. I am so sorry to Savio. It just did not look good on him or Hammerstone. It was just that pendulum. Look it up. Free on YouTube, as always, MLW. Like, I still enjoyed myself, but man, it was just an ugly time. And yeah, hopefully they can pick up their pace moving forward with the death match. I have high hopes now for the death match between Havoc and LA Park. So, moving on from MLW, ladies and gentlemen, how about we cover a little bit of All Elite Wrestling? So we've got not only the episode of Being the Elite to cover, but 2 episodes of Road to All Out. Now, I feel like partly they did this, so we've only got like a month left until All Out. We've only got a couple weeks, actually. Jesus. I feel like they might put some like surprise episodes in between now, like maybe do 2 a week now moving forward, so that we'll get to 10. The perfect 10, and then we'll have a Sean Spears one, dedicated to Sean Spears. Maybe. That's my thinking anyway, but out of nowhere we got gifted with another Road to All Out with like a 3-minute promo from Brandy Rose, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So episode 165 of Being the Elite was Farewell to Indie Wrestling. Now, usually there's not much to cover with Being the Elite. Like, usually all the scoops come from Road to All Out. But there's a couple things in here that I really need to address. So we opened, of course, with the referee who is taking his job very literally in the Being the Elite segments. So Cody accidentally knocked into him, and he took a ref bump. Could not move at all. Cody pickpockets him and leaves. Just, if he's down, he's down. Glad to know, Cody, that you're still working class there to steal a man's wallet when he's down there. But in terms of that, you're following the Young Bucks on their very last indie match, getting ready to face off against Private Party for the House of Glory match. Now, the big takeaway from this is not that match. Like, they announced earlier this week, of course, so Private Party and the Young Bucks, this is not the last time they will be facing, of course, because they're all elite. And that during the tag team tournament to crown the inaugural tag team champions, the Young Bucks will be facing off against the Private Party. Episode 2, I believe, of the TNT episodes, which have been sold out, by the way. I'll say that in advance. I'll cover that later as well. But the big news I want to talk about from this episode, we found out a new signing. Put on your glasses and put your hands in your pockets, because Orange Bloody Cassidy is all elite, and I am so excited. Namely because I am heading to PWA for their Coliseum event in October, that the whole B Plus team are going to be covering all the festivities for Coliseum, and the first man announced was Orange freaking Cassidy. You can bet that we're going to be just reveling in the majesty that is Orange Cassidy, the man of so many like wrestling gifts now at this point. Like, just his style of like, it's comedy at first, and then it evolves, and then it gets serious, and then it gets good, it gets great. He's just so entertaining. He's so entertaining. I cannot wait to see him in Australia. Boy, I'm hoping that we get a chance to talk to him. I don't want to jinx it. I'm just really happy that I get the chance to see him. But Orange Cassidy, if you loved his, like, if you only saw his stint in the Casino Battle Royal, just know that that is not all he does. He's not just the guy who just taps you on the ankles and just does the little tiny kick. It's not. That's part of it, but you've not seen all of Orange Cassidy yet. Trust me, and I cannot wait. I'm so glad they actually officially signed him. There's going to be so much more room for comedy and just so much more bombastic events that can happen under AEW with their TV show. I'm excited. So that's really the big things that happened from the Being the Elite episode this week. So as I mentioned, really the big news happened in the Road to All Out. So for the episode 5 of All Out, we cover the best friends, and they're talking about the Dark Order, how they're going to be facing them for the right for a buy-in for the tag team tournament. And it's a nice thing. So usually these Road to All Outs, they're like nice in-depth perspectives on the tag team. And in a way it was, but I love the best friends. Like, why do we have to talk about ourselves? Why do we have to give away how we met? Like, we don't even remember how we met. They're just like, why do you have to ruin that? Can't they just be best friends? And I love that approach. So we're used to All Elite Wrestling just unveiling the secrets. So I'm so glad that the best friends are just like, nah, we're just mates. What more needs to be said? The Dark Order, though, those guys need to get their shit together. I love that. We cover Alex Marvez doing the stats. He works really well as the statistician in these Road to All Out episodes. I'm hoping, again, as Greg Unchained mentioned a couple months ago now, after Double or Nothing, so he'll have more to work with being the stats guy on commentary. Either that or they'll just do a two-man team with Jim Ross and Excalibur moving forward, but I don't think they'll get rid of him entirely, you know? So he's covering the stats of how long Sean Spears and Cody Rhodes have known each other for. We cover, so on the Being the Elite episode and the Road to All Out, it covers Hangman Page's promo to Chris Jericho, how he's going to defy the odds and become the first ever AEW champion. And then we end, of course, with Kenny Omega doing a promo to Jon Moxley, and he calls him damaged goods. Wow. Just wow. Like, he went there, and he's looking forward to his road to redemption. And I was so excited just to have that little morsel of knowledge going into this week of wrestling. And then episode 6 came out, and boy, so good. So the Rhodes family, not just Cody, but Dustin and Brandy, just they know how to cut promos. They just know. Like, I'm sure Brandy has taken a lot of lessons from Cody and Dustin, because man, just a short 3-minute promo, Brandy calling out Sean Spears, calling him a piece of shit, saying how her husband is a professional wrestler because he lives, eats, and breathes professional wrestling, and saying how it doesn't matter what you call him, all that matters is that he is better than you, and you better watch your back. It doesn't matter what Tully Blanchard says, you're gone. And I love this. I love this so much. It's saying how the Rose name just invites people to target on your back, but they don't care. They accept it, and they just run with it. And I hope they continue these just fade to black promos, because they do, AEW, if that's going to be the style of promos for their TV series, please, I welcome that. Just something simple and straightforward, gets to the point, you can remember what they say. That's the thing. Can you remember on a Raw or a SmackDown recently just what the words were said for a promo and how long it dragged on and on and on? And these, like, you do not need that. Like, less is more sometimes, and in this case, it worked out fantastically, right? So that was the AEW news for this week. The NWA also are full steam ahead as well. They are getting the nostalgia train in gear, ready for their show coming soon, late September, early October. And no 10 Pounds of Gold episode as such, but they did a episode entitled Legacy of NWA 10 Pounds of Gold. So they covered the entire history and the original story of Billy Corgan buying the NWA back in 2017. They even showed the comments from wrestlers like wrestling with regret. I love that opening. I was thinking like, oh my god, what are they doing on 10 pounds of gold? But it's just covering the reactions from people when Billy Corgan bought the NWA, and it's covering the history from the 40s to the 50s to the 60s, touching on Harley Race, of course, rest in peace, and just the evolution and how Billy Corgan is saying like 70 years on, the NWA is as relevant now as it's ever been, which a lot of marketing, but it's definitely getting up there in this landscape of pro wrestling. Man, it feels like the territory scene again. The landscape is just shifting for the better, and of course, for any further thoughts on the landscape, you should be checking our How the Landscape's Changed podcast on the B Plus here. Lance covers those really well. You should go have a listen. As with all our stuff, of course, including my own. Like, shameless plug there. But before we get into all the other wrestling news from this week, all the signings, some injuries, some other big news from WWE and AEW and the such, let's hear from Greg with our sponsors.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, Outbreak Nutrition. Outbreak Nutrition are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at Outbreak Nutrition. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out OutbreakNutrition.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure, if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, OutbreakNutrition.com, enter the code B+ at checkout. Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B+ podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Graps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. How about we get right into the swing of things, talking about all the people who have just signed on, who have made a grand return to the stage of professional wrestling. Does not matter the promotion, we're going to try and cover as much as we can. Not so much an announcement, so it's just an unveiling. So we knew from last month that Braun Strowman re-signed with WWE for a multi-year deal. We found out from, I believe, the Gorilla position that he revealed that it was a 4-year deal, which sounds about right. And also, you should have a read of that interview as well, where he covered why he thinks he hasn't been a champion, either the Universal Champion or the WWE Champion. He's very humble. He knows how to seem like an ambassador of WWE. He's taken a lot of cues from Roman Reigns, I think, because speaking of the big dog, he announced that he has signed a new multi-year deal with WWE. Shock and horror, I know the big dog is a complete loyalist to WWE. Where would they be without him? He's the top guy in WWE. Sorry, Seth Rollins, but you're kind of a dick. Based on your social media and the such from the past few months, you've painted yourself in a very bad light, my friend. But yeah, Roman Reigns conducts himself as the figurehead of WWE, and he is the golden boy. Why wouldn't he? And it does, even though we don't know how long he signed on for, Roman Reigns revealed in Hobbs and Shaw press conference that he thinks he's got 5 more years of wrestling in him full time. And after that, maybe do a part-time schedule, maybe just retire. Who knows? You never know with WWE, like if the Saudi money comes knocking and stuff like that. But no, I'm happy for Roman. Very good news for him. I can't imagine him being anywhere else than WWE at this point. So no matter what we think of the brand or whether we think how it will fare once AEW get on their feet, I see Roman as the face to try and lead WWE through those Wednesday Night Wars going forward. But we have some other signings. So the Performance Center have got a lot of people. I mean a lot. The latest batch of signings for the Performance Center. So I'll go through as many of them as I can. So we've got Alexander Jaksic, who is trained by Santino Marella. He's a 24-year-old wrestler. EJ Nduka is a champion bodybuilder. Like 7 feet, like big ass guy, like big black muscle. He is pretty much, and I'm sure the moment Vince McMahon looked at him, he's just like, you're in, because he's got a hard on for the big sweaty men. Catalina Garcia, she of course wrestled as La Diva del Ring, Jessie, I believe in, was it AAA or The Crash? I can't remember which promotion it was, but it was in Mexico. Brianna Brandy, so she's a hip hop artist turned a wrestler. So she used to tour with Soulja Boy, Crank That in the Sunch. God, I can't remember the last time I listened to Soulja Boy. Jesus Christ. We had a Tehuta Miles, who's a former soldier. He almost died in serving his country in Afghanistan. Got a guy named Marcos Gomez, who's a Muay Thai instructor. A lot of diverse backgrounds here for the Performance Center. Rita Reyes is a multi-time medalist in Jiu-Jitsu and Judo. So those are just like some of the smaller names of people that have joined the Performance Center. But the two other people that I want to talk about, so Santana Garrett, I should say. So she's now joined the brand. Now, this isn't her first time in WWE. She's actually wrestled like 8 matches for the company as part of the Mae Young Classic. And she's done some stints with NXT, like doing some quiet stuff as well. So it's just like an official thing. She, of course, wrestled under the name Brittany in Impact Wrestling, former champion there, former NWA Women's Champion, I should say. So she is a very accomplished wrestler. And now they're just going to give her the chance to be a part of NXT proper. But the big one after NXT TakeOver Toronto, he was spotted in the crowd. Freaking Austin Theory, the Evolve champion, is joining WWE. It's no surprise. The surprise, though, is the fact that he is still the Evolve champion. The guy is only 22. He's got the look of a WWE superstar. He's got the skill set in terms of like promos and everything else. Absolute dick on the mic. He's just like, he's that cocky and athletic, and he knows it, and he would do wondrous things in NXT. He looks like that guy who in 5 years could be the world champion. I would call that now. In 5 years, and who knows, with like AEW facing off against WWE in the future, I can see them putting a guy like Austin Theory in the heavyweight title picture because he's that damn good. He just needs a bit of seasoning, and he'll be great. So I'm very not confused. I'm very curious how long he's going to hold on to the Evolve title while he's under the employment of WWE. It shouldn't matter too much because they have that working relationship. But yeah, those are all the big multiple names coming. Whereas Impact Wrestling have a revolving door of talent, WWE just trying to cram as much people in there as possible. And yeah, we all know why. But some other people who returned to WWE, the Boss, Sasha Banks, after 4 months of theorizing and predicting and just waiting for her to make a move, saying she's going to exit a contract, she's going to move to AEW, she's going to get fired somehow. Finally, she just decides to go back and wrestle. So whether she renews her contract or whether she just lets it leave, lets it wait out, right? But she came back at the best absolute time. She's on the Raw brand. She attacked Natalya, who was celebrating the 1 year, she was mourning the loss of her father 1 year after he passed away. She comes out, attacks Natalya. Becky Lynch tries to save her. Doesn't end up happening. Sasha completely destroys Becky Lynch with a steel chair. And immediately, Sasha is back in the women's title picture. Could have a feud with either Natalya, Becky, or both for Clash of Champions. I could see it maybe doing a triple threat. They don't necessarily need to. Maybe just to make sure that Sasha is okay or that Natalya's like something. But again, it's completely reinvigorated the women's division because no one was at the same level of Becky Lynch on that roster. No one had the chance to be at that level just yet. So immediately Sasha right in the picture again. She's come at the best time. I'm glad they did it on Raw and not SummerSlam. I kind of half expected them to do it for her to go on SmackDown and just join up with Bayley again or something or other. But I'm glad that they figured out the right kind of mix to do there. Some other signings we have, so Vanilla Varga, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So Impact are currently in Mexico doing some tapings. She actually debuted recently for them, so those episodes haven't been released just yet. I think they're doing that their last week of Canadian tapings from Windsor, Ontario, and then we'll see that hopefully next week after. Let's see what happens there. So in terms of returns, so this is not a return to full-time wrestling. Like this is like a rumor thing. So the G1's finished. If you want to hear our full thoughts on that, check out our Kings of the Sports podcast where we cover everything that happened from the G1. Of course, the winner of that, Kota Ibushi, big congratulations to him. The only man to win the G1 Climax and the Best of the Super Juniors. The only man who's ever done that before. Like, I'm glad that if it was going to be anybody, it would be Ibushi. So that was awesome for him. But the big news coming out of that, so Kenta turned on his mates in a six-man tag and joined the freaking Bullet Club. And I'll be touching on this later as well. So Kenta joined the Bullet Club, and the thing that surprised everybody is that Katsuyori Shibata came out to try and like beat up Kenta. And it made storyline sense and stuff, and like the crowd was so white hot. Now, you'll notice that he didn't take a bump, right? They just choked him out, and then they kind of kicked him in the head and stuff like that. But he never took like a bump per se. And the dude has been out of wrestling for like 2 years because of the headbutt hurt around the world in his match against Okada. He gave himself like a hematoma from that vicious headbutt. It was absolutely ugly. Like I can still remember it. Like, ugh. Seriously, look up Shibata's headbutts, especially the one to Okada. So if you're wondering what this meant, like him actually coming to attack Kenta. Now, like according to Dave Meltzer and everyone else, this was merely a one-off and he has been cleared to wrestle a match. There's no indications that he's doing anything for a match or anything like that. Like, things can always change though. So like, I don't necessarily think that they would bring him back to do a match because they really wouldn't want to risk, like especially the Japanese style, they wouldn't want to risk someone like Shibata like getting back in the ring. But I can see him being like in a managerial role or just like a valet, just like coming out and helping to cost Kenta a match or something, trying to thwart the Bullet Club in some way, shape, or form. I can see that happening moving forward. Like you have guys as well like Hiromu Takahashi who still not yet cleared for an in-ring return. They reckon it'll be like late summer. But again, that's still up in the air. So trust me, those moments in quick succession of Shibata coming out and Kenta joining the Bullet Club, they was amazing. Like just the perfect way to cap off the G1 Climax after like that tournament as well finished. It was just an absolutely beautiful moment. In terms of injuries, I'm glad to say it's people coming off the bench and not being put on there. So Paige underwent successful neck surgery. We mentioned last week that she had to get some more work done. So the surgery was successful. Hopefully she can enjoy a better quality of living and she can get back to managing the Kabuki Warriors, which I'm hoping that they get a chance to do stuff on Raw and SmackDown. On Raw, I should say, just because they haven't done anything with the women's tag team title division. I'm just going to say that flat out. But another person as well who's been cleared, Dr. Britt Baker. So she suffered a concussion at one of the shows last month, and it was a little bit unclear whether she would actually be competing in the Casino Battle Royal for All Out. But just today, hot off the desk, she's been actually cleared to compete. So I assume that she'll be a part of that Casino Battle Royal. I honestly think she's going to be geared up to be the inaugural women's champion for AEW. I can see it happening, right? One person who we don't know what's happening, another person who's kind of in question marks, Kylie Rae. So she's kind of been very quiet on the social medias for quite a while. Like she took off one of her social medias, and it kind of removed mentions of wrestling off it. Why she would do that, I don't know. I'm hoping that everything's okay with her, because man, I think she was going to be geared up to face off against Britt Baker. That feud was going to be building to All Out to crown the inaugural women's champion. Again, no news is good news, but just the fact that Kylie Rae is a bit quiet at the moment has got us feeling a little bit sus. No people leaving as such as well, so thankfully it's a good news week for people like injuries and leaving and such. So there's no one like getting injured again or having to leave a company. The only people leaving or having a break is Finn Balor, but he's going on holidays, man. He lost his match against The Fiend at SummerSlam, which yowie wowie, that was amazing. And yeah, he's going to have a couple months off to celebrate being engaged. So good luck to him. Hopefully he comes back with a fresh new gimmick. Got some big news to cover. So one of the big announcements from Major League Wrestling was that they have done another partnership. So they have partnered with The Crash in Mexico, and apparently Selena De La Renta was a big figure in them making this collaboration. Now, aside from AAA and CMML, The Crash is one of the hottest growing brands in Mexico. If you want to hear all things lucha, go listen to Big Boy Mikey on his Local Por Lucha Libre podcast, where he covers everything in terms of Lucha Libre. He covers all of the Mexican wrestling that he can find, and he does a very concise job. I really love listening to it. I think it's fantastic. But yeah, I am very curious, and I love the fact that you have some Aussie boys in The Crash. You have Australian Suicide, who does 2 tours around Mexico, but you got guys like Adam Brooks, Craven. I would love to see them in Major League Wrestling. So Adam Brooks has officially debuted in Major League Wrestling, right? I expect he'll be part of their pay-per-view in November. That's just me. But I would love to see Craven in MLW, man. That would be incredible. Big fan of the channel. Wish nothing but success for him in the future with all his endeavors. But yeah, MLW just seems to be making all the right moves. They're just no one is broadcasting all the amazing partnerships that MLW are doing. It's crazy to me how they are just slowly sneaking in all these talent. So they partnered with Noah last week. They partnered with The Crash this week. Now they've made another partnership this week, which is not a wrestling promotion as such, but they partnered with Martial Arts Advanced Research Systems. It's an innovation lab which is designed to explore athlete development and injury prevention. So they're partnering with these guys to look into making their fighters work harder, recover faster. It's a sports analytics and insights company. And just the fact that they've partnered with these guys just adds that extra sports-centric feel that I love about Major League Wrestling. Add to that, you have guys like, I didn't even mention, Tony Schiavone is back in Major League Wrestling. As much as I didn't like this recent episode of Major League Wrestling, the fact that Tony Schiavone was back on commentary, it was so good. It was so good to hear him. Maybe the only person who's actually left, I should say, is Jim Cornette, which, good riddance. Good riddance, that's all I'll say on that. But in terms of the news this week, guys, I'll cover all the AEW news as much as I can. So, episodes 2 and 3 of the seeding for their weekly TV show, October 9th and October 16th, they went on sale. not too long ago, and in less than an hour, both shows got sold out. Both of them. It boggles the mind just how the hype for AEW is not dying down at all. If anything, it's getting more intense. And it's going. Of course, next week they're going to be announcing episodes 4 and 5, the locations for those tapings, and the locations for them when the tickets will go on sale. I expected them are going to get quicker and quicker. Like, maybe, God, we could probably get like half an hour. I wouldn't be surprised. Half an hour sellouts, depending on where they are. Like, the hype train is real. We found out for episode 3. So episode 2 is really going to be focusing on the tag team tournament to crown the inaugural tag team champions, which will be happening, I believe, we won't be crowning on that night, but it'll be a tournament throughout the tapings. But episode 3 is going to be a real kicker. So it'll be the first defenses of the Women's Championship and the World Championship. They will both be defended. So once we crown our inaugural champions out of Chris Jericho and Adam Page, and then the winner of the Casino Battle Royal facing off against someone else for the Women's Championship, they will have to defend the belts. I'm hoping it's not just a rematch and that it's an actual defense against someone else. They're clearly making all the right moves, and I love that we know this in advance, and now like the speculation is on who's it going to be defending against. To add some more fuel to the fire, AEW have actually revealed, well, not so much AEW, but Cody Rhodes answered a fan on Twitter about the wrestling roster moving forward, and he's actually saying that about only 40% of the roster has been revealed. 40%. That's insane. And there's been about, God, how much people do they have? There's about 50, 60? Like, which means that their wrestling roster has got to be over 100 and something now. But they just have been keeping people quiet for the right moment. I am worried. So I'm hoping that this is kind of just to big up AEW a little bit and not quite literal, because if it is, because I love the fact that AEW's roster is so contained and that you can focus on like everyone's storylines, moving forward. Like everyone on All Elite Wrestling, I can tell you what their story is, their direction they're going for. I love it, and I'm worried that they know what they're doing, but I'm going to say it anyway. The fact that I don't want them to oversaturate their roster, I don't want them to just stuff their product to the gills with talent, which I'm sure they give them a lot of chance to shine, but they only have the one show, 2 hours, right? And like WWE, just years of watching WWE has made me nervous about hearing that there's going to be more wrestlers and other promotions. So I feel like it was partially in jest. But if it wasn't, I hope AEW know what they're doing and just tread lightly. That's all I will say. Please just tread lightly. We found it as well that there's a new match announced for All Out. We have Rio versus Hikaru Shida. That match, another match to showcase the amazing talent, the amazing Joshi wrestlers that AEW have acquired through their partnerships, through their acquisitions from throughout Asia. I reckon it's going to be a real highlight of that match. I expect both of those women to be a part of the Casino Battle Royal, just doing double duty because, again, the Joshi wrestlers are just something else entirely. So that's really the AEW news moving forward, guys. I do have some other indie news before I touch base on everything else. So as I mentioned last week, how the person who helped stop the Ohio shooter last week was a wrestler found out Jeremy Granger. So the article I read just had him as Ganger. It was just a bad typo. So that was apologies on my front, on my side, ladies and gentlemen. So Jeremy Granger, he's actually released a GoFundMe to support his medical bills. So he actually, in stopping the attacker, he actually suffered some shrapnel injuries. So he just needs to cover his medical expenses. I think the GoFundMe, it raised about $900 or so of the $1,000 target since I last checked. But that's still on there. Like, we put the link on our Facebook page if you want to donate and help show your support to him in stopping yet another tragedy in America. I thought I'd just put that through here if you weren't aware of it. But yeah, just I hope nothing but the best for that man, and yeah, hopefully it gives him a nice bit of notoriety that a wrestler stepped up and just stood in the face of just a man with an assault rifle. But moving on from that, ladies and gentlemen, we have some WWE news going forward, and the King of the Ring tournament is back. After a 4-year hiatus, King of the Ring is back. This is in no way linked to the G1 Climax. No, never at all. It totally is. But because I'm really surprised, because Vince McMahon is renowned for hating tournaments, right? If you notice, like, we haven't had the Cruiserweight Classic this year. We haven't had the Mae Young Classic. I'm surprised. I'm hoping they still do it this year. But there's been nothing, absolutely nothing. And it's just a response to how Japan are just crushing it, like how New Japan are crushing it with like Jon Moxley appearing on there. And this is just them trying to dip into their bag of old tricks. Now we have 16 wrestlers announced, and they were starting from this week's Raw and SmackDown. It will be like for the next few weeks, we're going to be having these series of matches, King of the Ring qualifiers, and the winner the 2 finalists will face off at Clash of Champions to crown off the 2019 King of the Ring. You have guys like, I'll try and run through the list: Cesaro versus Samoa Joe, Ricochet versus Drew McIntyre, Cedric Alexander versus Sami Zayn, The Miz versus Baron Corbin, Kevin Owens versus Elias. I wonder who's going to win that one. Ali versus Buddy Murphy, Chad Gable versus Shelton Benjamin. I'm going to touch on that in a second. And Apollo Crews versus Andrade. A lot of interesting names here. I'd love it if Ricochet won, because his name's King Ricochet online. So he's already got the name, people. He just needs the official title, and he's there. But this could give an opportunity to so much talent, like Drew McIntyre, the chosen one, like the self-fulfilling prophecy of Drew McIntyre finally getting something in WWE. Like, I could see it helping Cesaro. I could see it helping guys like Ali or Buddy Murphy. It would be amazing. Kevin Owens is the most likely person, because they kind of realize that he is borderline on that Stone Cold level. Like, Stone Cold won on the King of the Ring, right? Now, we've had some legendary Kings of the Ring in past, of course, like Kurt Angle or King Booker. But yeah, I can see Kevin Owens going all the way to the finals and winning. That's just me. But you place your bets on who you think will win moving forwards. We'll do a sweepstake in the B+. We'll see who wins that one. I've just made my predictions known. Kevin Owens, locking it in. And we'll see what happens after that. Yeah, as much as it's very blatant why they're doing it, I love the King of the Ring. Like, I loved William. Like, I remember growing up, I grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era, when William Regal won the King of the Ring, and just that image of him on the throne. Like, oh, he was so good. He was so good, ladies and gentlemen. And more people need to experience the wonder that is the King of the Ring. It does. You don't necessarily have to have the King gimmick moving forward, although Booker T was so good with that gimmick. Let's be fair. But yeah, it's just a nice little rub for some stars and for a lot of talent that are just hungry to get some more recognition, because there are a lot of them in WWE. Let's be real. So there are a lot of questionable decisions that WWE makes, or that Vince McMahon makes, to be fair. But this is not one of them. This is actually a good decision on their part, and that is to do with Bray Wyatt, aka The Fiend. Now, as I mentioned, he had his match SummerSlam, his big match, where he came out with his own head as a lantern and the Fiend mask on, and just his entire moveset. Oh, it was wonderful. It was absolutely glorious. But you'll notice that on this week's episodes of Raw and SmackDown, he was not a part of it. And for those of you wondering why, it was by choice, because WWE realized, like, holy shit, this could be big. This could be a really big deal. And they want to make sure that they're using sparingly so they don't oversaturate his appearances. They make them mean something, that he has a specific target in mind, and to give the idea that you never know where the Fiend will show up. God, yes. Just absolutely yes. Like, I think WWE, like the creative writers have been waiting for years for a character like this to show up in some form, and I'm so glad that Bray Wyatt has reinvented himself as this Mr. Rogers type character for Firefly Funhouse, and then the demonic fiend split personality. It's just brilliant. I want him to keep destroying legends. I want him to. I'm hoping his next match is against Aleister Black. Let's be real, because that is just a match made in heaven or hell, depending on your beliefs. But yeah, Yowie Wowie. That is why he was not on this week's episode of Raw and SmackDown. So you can just wait in anticipation when exactly he will show up again. So just another thing to try and entice people to come back to the product after the ratings have just gone just through the toilet to a lot of things. So yeah, that good decision on WWE's part by doing that. How are they doing with their other stuff? Not great. Not great at all. They've been cancelling numerous house shows. Like, there was a good 5 of them that have been cancelled, right? Like, there's some in LA for the 23rd, Lafayette on the 24th, Mobile, Alabama, the 25th, like Portland, Missouri. Portland, my geography of America is not that great. But yeah, a whole week of house shows were cancelled. And for the reason why, it seems like the idea is they weren't getting enough ticket sales in advance, so they weren't getting the numbers like AEW are doing, like selling out in an hour. Like, oh my God, there's a WWE show next to us. Like, we should go buy tickets. No one is saying that anymore. But the reason that they're doing that is to make the quarterly drop seem not as big, or to make investors think that their numbers are still okay. Like, with their the second quarter attendance average from house shows is 4,700. That is low. That is really low. And it will work for a little bit, but and interesting enough, so the shows that they cancelled, these are the ones that apparently Kane was supposed to return for, the mayor of Knox County. So the fact that they've cancelled all these means that probably Kane is not going to be returning to WWE, which is sad, but it is what it is. Being an investor, like, you cannot be fooled by this. That is so blatantly obvious that WWE are just padding the numbers, and anyone who is investing their money moving forward, like, they have to know that they are investing in it seems like a lost cause. Just the fact that everything is telling them that the numbers are down in revenue, in house sales, in merchandise, like in confidence. Like, pick anything, everything is down for WWE at this point, and this is just a blatant tactic to just try and make it seem like everything's fine. Everything is not fine, ladies and gentlemen. And you'd think that WWE would be doing damage control in a good way, but not in a seedy business kind of tactic way. But yeah, WWE aren't going to be changing their stripes anytime soon by the looks of it, because we have some other news as well about the NXT brand. So I think it was last week before I was talking about this. So NXT is being rumored to have its own little episode on Fox Sports 1, which will put it head to head with AEW for their October release. And now there's rumors that NXT might be put on to the USA Network, which is the network that has Raw. And again, same rules apply. 2-hour live show from Full Sail University, directly in opposition of AEW's TNT episodes. Like, my feelings are exactly the same as like from last week before. It's going to, like, I'm very grateful that more stars in NXT will get the chance to shine, but if AEW like skyrocket in popularity, which of course they will, who's going to get blamed for it? NXT. And the fact that it'd be a live show, Vince McMahon would have to get involved in some capacity, and I do not want that for any of the roster. Any of them. They do not deserve that. They've been scurried away by Triple H. Like, that no one should be touching them. And I'm just worried, man. I'm worried that NXT, like, there's very capable wrestlers. There's amazing wrestlers in NXT, right? Like, you have TakeOver going up against shows like Double or Nothing or All In or All Out, hopefully. Like, I hope that's going to be, like, an amazing show. Like, I don't, it's, in terms of the war, like, yes, the WWE, like, their big front runner is NXT in terms of the guys who are leading charge in terms of the quality of the product. But I don't want that for NXT to be the fall guy, because I can guarantee you, like, WWE need to find fall guys for something. They need to blame people for something, and I worry that they're going to just blame the brand and they're just going to scrap it in some way, or they're going to punish those guys, and I do not want to see that at all. So yeah, don't trust Vince McMahon. He can be sweet one moment, but man, other instances, like, he might even say renege on a handshake agreement, because we have rumors, of course, all hearsay at this point, but you can see this actually being real, absolutely real, that Dolph Ziggler had a handshake agreement with Vince McMahon to try and leave the company. He tried to leave, right? He wanted his last match with the company to be this week's Raw, where he faced off against The Miz. Now, he had his match against Goldberg, where he just sold like an absolute G. Like, he sold like an absolute certified G, right? Those, like, the spear. I'm not done yet. You get your ass back here. Another spear. Didn't even hurt. Goldberg, get your ass back out here. Another spear again. It was beautiful. You needed a moment just to laugh in SummerSlam. That was it. And again, he put over Miz on Raw, and the handshake agreement was that he would do that, and not to go to another company, but he's got other stuff going for him. Like, he wants to, I think he's trying to do like a movie with his brother. He's trying to be a comedian, whether you like his style of comedy or not. Like, that's just subjective. But yeah, he wasn't going to, like, go to AEW or somewhere or other. He was just like, I have other endeavors I want to pursue. I want to leave the company. Please make that happen. And then after Raw, apparently Vince McMahon went, nah, I want to just keep you under contract. I want to keep you scurried away because I don't want anyone trying to grab you. So he's just going to say, you know what? I just rather pay you to sit at home and do nothing. Which, like, it sounds like a dream job, you know? Your boss is actually paying you to stay at home and do nothing. But wrestlers, they want to wrestle, or they want to do other things. And WWE's contracts are so, they borderline on illegal in a lot of ways. Like, how it's been managed to stay like that for so long baffles the mind. But again, Dolph Ziggler did not want to wrestle for another company. He just wanted to leave and just, like, I want to be a comedian. And, like, the punchline is he just has to sit at home. That's the punchline. That's Vince's punchline to Dolph Ziggler, who has been, his character's, like, pretty much dead in the water. He's suffered so many losses, right? Like, since, like, the 2014 Rumble, right? He's just been absolutely worthless. And coming back from selling to Goldberg after all that, like, there's nothing for him, like, going forward. And we'll see really if this is all true in some capacity, if we see him on the next episodes of Raw and SmackDown in the next couple weeks, which he's not a part of the King of the Ring tournament. I feel like this is true. And then we might not see him for a little while. Yeah, I feel bad. Like, you would think that there would be some kind of integrity there, especially if you have a handshake agreement with the boss. Like, but Vince McMahon is a temperamental fellow, as he displays week after week after week, because I have to keep talking about him week after week after week. It's it. Excuse me while I die of not surprise, ladies and gentlemen. To quote a comedian that I heard recently. Got another couple stories before we finish. So we had Alicia Fox. Apparently she was at the SummerSlam weekend. A fan actually asked me what her status is with the company. So back in February, she apparently wrestled while intoxicated, which Arn Anderson was the producer of the company at the time, one of the producers who actually allowed it to happen, knowing that she was intoxicated, which can be very dangerous. And that's the reason that Arn Anderson left the company. But in terms of Alicia Fox, she has been in contract limbo. So she's not left the company. She's not been fired or anything, but she hasn't wrestled since February. And so she was at SummerSlam weekend. And apparently she got kicked out for being a drunken mess, according to Pro Wrestling Insider, that she got booted out from doing any activities related to what they were doing. And Canada, they have strict stuff. They kicked out Jimmy Uso for the GUIs that he suffered from last week, week before. That they don't let anyone in their borders in terms of alcohol related charges. And Alicia Fox came there and she was an absolute drunken mess, according to sources. And yeah, it's just sad. Maybe her situation is she's being forced to sit on the couch and not do what she loves. It's just, it's sickening. And again, maybe if there's any, she might be in a certain situation and surely she needs to seek help in some form. But it doesn't seem like the company are actually trying to help her out at all. And they're just would just kind of tuck you away and hope no one notices you until your contract is up, and then you're on your own, you're dead in the water. It's just, yeah. So we go from the disappointing to the sad to the WTF. So the WTF moment for this week also comes from WWE, unsurprisingly, is that the rumor is that a certain wrestler will be getting a new name. What is that name? Shorty G. Shorty G. Just rolls off the tongue, ladies and gentlemen. Just you can hear fans, thousands of fans in house shows just clapping, Shorty G, Shorty G. No, I don't see that happening. But the person who is rumored to get this lovely new name change is Chad Gable, you poor bastard. So WWE recently trademarked the name Shorty G with the intention of actually using it for one of their superstars. Now we don't know who it's exactly for, but based on the directions that they're going with, so Shelton Benjamin, who has been having these promos where he's just looking around and just doing his crazy smile and just doing nothing, he ran into Chad Gable in the hallway. And Chad Gable just said, "Hey man, what's going on?" And all Shelton said to him was Shorty, and then left, right? Now these guys are facing off in the King of the Ring tournament as well, so this will really be an indication of what's going to happen. But yeah, if you're going to connect those two dots, you would think that Chad Gable is going to he's going to digivolve into Shorty G, just the worst rapper, the worst white rapper name, or just the absolute douchebag name you could think of. Is especially for I thought we moved past these gimmicks, right? I would expect this from the early 2000s, the late 90s. I don't really expect this stuff in 2019 from WWE. I would expect a guy like Shorty G to be a part of Too Cool with Grandmaster Sexay and Scotty 2 Hotty, just or a pretender who just came for a dance segment with Rikishi, not an actual legitimate wrestler like Chad Gable, who has won tag championships in NXT, Raw, and SmackDown. A little quiet victory there. He's been doing great work on 205 Live. This is his future is looking pretty bleak if he gets this name gifted to him. And who would have thought of a name like Shorty G in 2019? Who has the childish mindset? Who is so crazy enough to have even concocted the name Shorty G to be trademarked? Well, there's only one man, the Black Cloud of WWE, according to Jimmy Jacobs, the crazy man. But that's where we're going to leave things right now, ladies and gentlemen. It's just on that note of Shorty G, I bid you adieu. That's been This Week in Wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to follow me on all the socials, I'm at Mr Myster1ous on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Grapple. Hit me up and let me know what you think about the name Shorty G and the weird decisions from WWE this week in terms of their talent moving forward, because, man, it's a weird time in professional wrestling, isn't it? If you want to follow us here collectively at the B+, we are at the B+ Wrestle on Twitter, because wrestling wouldn't fit, and the B+ Wrestling everywhere else. Make sure, guys, you check out our Patreon. Any amount you could donate would be greatly appreciated, so we can keep giving you all what you want, when you want, showcasing the very best of Australian wrestling and keeping you up to date on all the wrestling news from around the globe. Like, share, subscribe, hit that 5-star review. I've been Mr Mysterious for All The Rest, and I'll see you later.